You know, the hardest thing about doing videos is always the beginning for me. I'm always like torturing myself, how should I begin the video? And I don't always want to start the same way. So I guess I've already changed that with this introduction. And what we're looking at today is a fairly unique library. It's over 26 gigabytes of brand new content, and all based around the same concept, namely to take instruments and objects and put them in free suspension in the air for maximizing the vibration of the instrument, and then record them with different mallets and different recording techniques. We both have multi-samples, but we also have our new proprietary and patented groove sampling technique that I'll also demonstrate in this video. And Suspended is a massive collection. It's actually over 49 different instruments and found objects, and there's a variety of things in this library. You have basic elements such as 4x2 or 4x4 wood plates. You got boom whackers and butcher's blocks and china cups, coffee pots. We have cotton strings and bottles. We also took the shells of drums and recorded them. We took conventional instruments such as electric guitars, suspended them in air, and then started playing them with sticks and mallets. We have different types of bricks and concrete elements. We have an assortment of floor tiles. It actually sounds like I'm working in a store or something, but floor tiles are amazing once they get suspended. They have a very beautiful tonal range as well. We also took stuff like cymbals, put them in water to sort of get a more watery feeling out of traditional cymbals. We have gas canisters, pots. We even took like trumpets and hung them in the air as well. Then we have a large assortment of ceramic bowls and dishes and glass plates. Many different types of both big glass plates and glasses and anything sort of glassy. We got nylon cords and rubber bands and ship bells and a variety of different metal pipes that were modified where we put springs on them. Then we have probably the largest collection of assorted kitchen percussion. So, you know, metallic bowls and glasses, vases, like wine glasses. We even had tennis rackets, which are pretty cool. Thunder tubes, wicker baskets, and a variety of other things. I could go on and on. In this video, I'm going to show you a variety of sort of small mini demos demonstrating a variety of different aspects to the library and a variety of different patches. And as I mentioned, the core is really based on both multi-sampling and groove sampling these elements with different mallets and different articulations. So let's just get into it here. In front of us here, we have our new general user interface. And as you can see here, we have both what's called multi-mallets and 8, 16, and 32 mallets. The multi-mallet symbolizes your traditional multi-samples, and the 8, 16, and 32 mallet symbolizes our groove sampling. And let me just try to demonstrate quickly the difference between them. Let me just play a little bit with the multi-mallets here, and then I'll demonstrate the 8, 16, and 32 so you understand why it's so important to have both methods in the library. And what you're hearing here is actually played this way. It's completely tempo synced, but it's also velocity based. So you can actually sculpt through different dynamics. So for example, here with the boomwaggers playing 32, I can go from sort of soft to more open, harder playing style. And that's all using the mod wheel. You can essentially flow through the different dynamics on the mod wheel. Let me try to demonstrate the same thing here on a china cup or a And as you can hear with the china cup here, it was actually played with different kind of mallets. So for example, with the multi-samples here. And then the different tempos here for the groove sampling. Or it could be a coffee pot, for example. In this case, we took a coffee pot and we added these metallic springs to it for further vibration. And if you haven't figured it out already, this is the ultimate library for TikTok-y motion picture kind of stuff. And there's so many different textures, so many different ways you can approach these things. Right now, for example, we have all 3 microphones loaded here for the coffee pots with springs, but you can also isolate both the close, mid, and room microphones. But let me try to play a little piece here. I'm just going to shorten these guys here so you can see what articulations are playing. In this particular one, I used the boom whacker as sort of one of the driving elements. This is just a little MIDI demo. And let me just try to trigger it here, and then we'll talk a little more about what's going on in it. So in this case, we had the boom whacker, we had the effects symbol here, we had a nylon cord, and then we have a roof tile as well, all playing together, and that's essentially what created the groove. If it was up to me, I would probably add a few more elements. Let me just try to add just a simple bass drum and snare drum to it, and all of a sudden we actually have a whole groove cooking. These are from our Hybrid 88, but in essence it's mostly just this playing here, just with a bass drum and a snare drum. Check it out. One of my favorite sounds is actually the nylon cord. Let me try to isolate it here. It's actually really, really cool. It sort of has a tonal quality to it. And let me also mention that this is actually the first out of 2 suspended libraries. This is what we call our tonal edition. So all these instruments have one thing in common, and that is that they have some kind of tonality to them. You can hear that on the nylon cord as well. But we actually have a second edition come out of the library that has an additional 50 instruments that are non-tonal. And this is really just to complete the collection of this TikTok-y, motion picturesque, unique percussion that is so useful, and particularly when we record it with our groove sampling method, because everything just sounds so much more alive. Let me just isolate the nylon cord down here. And you probably noticed down here that I was switching between different articulations. So you actually have right different ones, and all these are velocity based again, so you can do your mod wheel thing. So it's a fantastic way to sculpt your percussion on top of everything else you're doing. Just hold down the key, move the mod wheel, and you can sculpt percussion completely realistically. And again, this is fully tempo synced as well. Another cool articulation that I was playing a little bit in the background was this rubber band on china. So actually using a rubber band on traditional Chinese porcelain. Let me try to isolate it too. It's a cool sound. Alright, let's try another experiment. In this one here, I'm going to be playing a little bit with floor tiles and frame drums and gas canisters and a couple of other elements. Let me try to trigger it, and then let's go a little more into details of what's actually playing. So for example, we had our floor tiles playing like this. You also have different articulations. And that's because we played all the materials with different kind of mallets. So it's not just that you have your multi-samples here, but you also have 3 different tempos here of our groove samples, which are also velocity based on when you do your mod wheel thing. And if that is not fast enough for you, you can actually double the tempo as well, which almost becomes like a roll. And you can also go triplets. Let's say that you have 8 notes here, but you need them in triplets. You click the T button here. And one of the beautiful things about this library that I really love is the fact that it sounds real. Just listen to this. If I was to play this with multi-samples, it just wouldn't sound real. You just get that natural variation, and particularly when you go in the faster playing styles here, there's no way I could play this with multi-samples here. Let me try the 32 notes. And particularly not when you use the mod wheel to sculpt between different dynamics. There's just no way a multi-sample can do that. If I was to try it here, it'd be something like... It just doesn't sound that great when you use multi-samples, but when you use the groove samples... Let me try to play these guys again here, the floor tiles and the gas canisters and frame drum. The frame drum is that sort of big, deep sound. And then we add a little bit of, again, of the hybrid drums, just a bass drum and a snare drum on top of it. It really just helps build the sort of perfect groove. Like the frame drum, for example, here is creating all the sort of bass region of the percussion. And what I did in this one was that I selected the 16 notes, but then I also added a gator to it. So in its normal state, it's more like... But when you add the gator to it, it gets a little more tight. And you can also control the speed of the gate down here by clicking here. So whatever speed you want to go in, let's say you want to do 32 notes, triplets. Da, 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 da. And the library comes with a variety of presets. Everything you're hearing here in this demo also comes with the library in regards to presets, so you can do anything that I'm doing in this video as well. Let's try another example here and then play around with some more crazy suspended percussion. So obviously a lot more soft and tonal, and you can do some really neat things with the tonal elements. Let me try to demonstrate the different patches I used in this one. And you may be wondering like, he's playing completely tonal across the key range. And that's because of this button here called S, which is an important part of the library. Let me just unclick it here. The second I unclick it, we get access to the chord articulations here in the multi-samples. But when I click the S button, I essentially get the whole key range of whatever was the last note I played. So all of a sudden I have full tonal range over that particular element. We go back here, let me just select another articulation. That one, for example. So that was the last note I clicked. I clicked S, and now I have full control over that as well. And this is really useful if you want to get more into the sort of tonal elements of the library. I also used a large metal ball here for the background sort of tick-tocky percussion. So for example, this last note here, check how smooth it is in the mod wheel. And let's say you want control. Let's say, I actually like that. I want to play a melody with it. You click multi-samples here. And here we have the articulation. And you click the S button here to make sure that you isolated it. Isn't it neat? And of course, we can also take this one here and shine it up a little bit. In this case, I actually took our Claire Alto flute, put a bunch of reverb on it, and it just add a little more to the little mini demo. Also use this small kitchen percussion bowl here for a little more tonal add-ons. And the reverb is actually coming from inside the library. Down here in our reverb section, we have something called Wonder, which is our sort of big Valhalla shimmerish reverb as well. Really great for those ethereal textures. All right, let's try another experiment here. And in this one, we had an assortment of different things. We had like metal pipes and red building bricks. We had like very short sort of metal pipes. We had vases that were actually in water. It wasn't water in the vase, but it was actually the vase in the water, wine glasses and different elements. Let me just try to play with a couple of the elements. I love that sort of funky snare-like sound towards the last half. I'll show you how I did it. So the first thing was to create a bass drum. I took this low pipe here and down-tuned it 14 semitones. You get this nasty, cool like bass drum. Second up was our red brick here. This is actually a red building block, but played with brushes. And it has that cool kind of snappy sound to it. Also using a little bit of reverb and delay here. In this case, our huge reverb. Just a cool snappy sound. Also use this short pipe here. Just super cool sound for more sort of bass accentuation. Let me also play those damn vases in the water. And it's so cool. Check out when I'm using the mod wheel how fluent it is. One of the methods we spent quite some time on developing more is to have very, very smooth transitions on your mod wheel. So when you go through our groove samples or our velocity-based loops, you can essentially really crossfade fluently between. It's one of the things we patented because there's so many unique aspects to how you actually do that, but it gives a completely fluent end result. And you can sort of hear the water, how the pitch goes up as you move the mod wheels. It's just great, very organic. Let me just trigger the groove again, and this time I'm gonna add a little bit again from our 8D8 hybrid drums minimalistic kit here, in this case patch 3 here, and just add it on top of what we just heard. It just gives a little more sort of dimension to the whole thing. Let's listen to another little mini demo, and this one really exemplifies what I mean when I say the TikTok-y soundtrack, motion picturesque trailer kind of sound. Really some unique percussive sounds, and pay particular close attention to the attack of these sounds. This sounds like some kind of a castanets almost on steroids. Really cool sound. And let me just add a little bit of 8D8 drums to it as well. Isn't it cool? Let me show you what elements was used. First of all, I used a nylon cord. And that sort of very dominant attack sound for the percussion was actually played with an electric guitar that was suspended that we played with mallets. And in this case, I did not use the groove samples. I actually used traditional multi-samples. Let me just isolate it here. And to me, I like to mix both groove with multi-samples. The multi-samples sort of have a stiffer nature to them, but they sit really well on the grid if you quantize them hard. But it's really awesome to have those fluent elements behind all the groove stuff. That's why it sounds more alive and it doesn't sound so super MIDI sequenced. Let me just trigger the whole thing again here so you can hear it just one more time. Now that you know that we are playing with nylon strings and suspended guitars. And I think one of the things that really stood out with this library to me when we're done is like how well these elements speak together. Sure, you have 49 deep sampled instruments and found objects and all that stuff, but you can virtually take most of these components, put them together and have something unique. For example, in this case here, I'm playing with a butcher block, a porcelain cup, a coffee pot, a fire brick, and a clay pot, and they sort of just work together. And it's so easy. Everything you just heard was created with a groove sample. So essentially just holding down one key, moving the mod wheel a bit, and then you have a super unique groove that's fully organic and sounds like it's played live. And that's really one of the unique aspects about our Suspended and also our general newer studio percussion series, because we record everything as multi-samples, but also everything as our groove samples. And it just gives you that quality, that live quality that you otherwise can't get out of the multi-samples. Let me play another example here that we did with a also very unconventional ensemble of instruments. In this case, we used a hanging trumpet and a hanging udu or a clay drum, combined it here with our rubber band and a ship's bell. A most peculiar combination, you might say, but actually a cool sound in the end. Let me just try to isolate a couple of different components. For example, here the ship's bell played really fast, and I tuned it up so it's almost more sounds like a triangle. Under normal conditions, it would sound something like this. But I tune up a little bit, and you have a masculine triangle. Or for example, a large plantation pot here. Played with the multi-samples and the S button again, so I isolated that one particular sample I like, so I made it completely tonal. Or the hanging trumpet and the hanging clay drum together. Let me also show you one last example of what you can do with a tennis racket. We might not think of the tennis racket as being a conventional music instrument, but it's actually pretty cool in its own. Check it out here, let's play solo. And combining the tennis racket with a fire brick. Adding a little drum beat. Adding a singular texture from our project FreeU. And mixing the tennis racket, the fire brick, the little drums, and project FreeU together, and you got this. And that, in essence, is our Suspended library. You got 26 gigabytes of brand new content. It's over 11,000 samples, both multi-sample with different mallets and brushes and all that stuff. You have our new groove samples that really allows you to do these fluent things, and it's just awesome for soundtrack, motion pictures, these sort of faster, pulsy kind of things. If you want the more acoustic, not just like the synthetic pulse stuff, but really true acoustic stuff, then this is probably the ultimate library for that. And we also have a second volume coming out, which is non-tonal. And I'm so happy with this project. It really ties well together with our other studio percussion series. We both have exotic percussion, traditional percussion, recorded in the same way as this, but this is more special. There's more unique textures here. You got 49 different instruments with a variety of sub-articulations in each instrument. So to me, this is another little dream come true. We can now do really, really beautiful acoustic TikTok-y stuff. And as you can see in this video, there's so many different ways you can apply these beautiful sounds and instruments together. So this was Trollsmade Yo signing out. I'll see you in the next one.